Ace justice for your crimes. They'll destroy us, Venrock said. Perhaps. But the Galactic Coalition's decision came 3 weeks after Coordinator Vensel's investigations concluded. The verdict was transmitted simultaneously to Earth and Velthari Prime, along with 47 other Coalition member worlds who had been watching the conflict with growing concern. The Coalition Council had deliberated for days, reviewing thousands of hours of evidence, studying battle reports, interviewing witnesses. Their conclusion was damning. The Velthari Empire had initiated aggressive war against a species that posed no threat. They had committed war crimes, including the use of biological weapons against civilians. The Coalition would not intervene on their behalf. However, the Council also urged humanity to show restraint. They offered to mediate a peaceful surrender. They promised to oversee trials for Velthari war criminals. They begged Earth to choose justice over vengeance. Admiral Daewon read the Coalition's message in his office aboard the flagship Inchen's Pride. The ship was 2 years old, built in the desperate early months of the war, and it showed. Patched hull plating, jury-rigged systems, scars from a dozen battles. Like Earth itself, it was damaged but unbroken. He composed his response carefully. To the Galactic Coalition Council, we acknowledge your message and appreciate your thorough investigation. However, humanity will not pause our operations while diplomatic negotiations proceed. The Velthari have rejected every previous offer of surrender. We no longer believe they will negotiate in good faith. Our terms remain unchanged. Unconditional surrender within 72 hours, or we will take Velthari Prime by force. There will be no further extensions. The message reached Velthari Prime 6 hours later. Commander Thelva stood in the war room, surrounded by tactical displays showing the approaching human fleet. 500 warships, the entire remaining strength of the United Earth Defense Force. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon humanity could muster. They were coming. 72 hours, Council Leader Venrock said quietly. They give us 3 days to surrender or die. We still have 147 warships, Military Commander Korseth argued. We can defend the homeworld. Our orbital defense platforms are the most powerful in the Empire. We can make them pay dearly. And then what? Thelvas asked. We kill another 1,000 human ships? 10,000? They'll keep coming. They always keep coming. That's what Deathworlders do. We could evacuate, suggested Council Member Selath. Load civilian transports, flee to our remaining colonies, continue resistance from there. Venrock shook his head. The humans will hunt us across the galaxy. There's nowhere to run. Not anymore. He turned to Thelvas. You fought them the longest. What do you think they'll do if we surrender? Thelvas considered the question. They'll disarm us. They'll try our war criminals. They'll probably occupy Velthari Prime for years, but I don't think they'll exterminate us. That's not their goal. They want justice, not genocide. Unlike us, the silence that followed was heavy with shame. Send a message to the human fleet, Venrock said finally. Tell them we're considering their terms. Request a meeting to discuss details. The response came from Captain Hyojin, now commanding the Stealth Operations Group. No meetings. No discussions. Surrender or fight. You have 68 hours remaining. The Velthari tried desperately to delay. They sent diplomatic notes. They requested ceasefire terms. They offered partial surrender. Every message received the same response. Unconditional surrender. 60 hours, 50 hours, 40 hours. Commander Thelvas assembled the last Velthari defense fleet. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the tactical display. 147 ships against 500. The numbers were bad but not impossible. The orbital platforms added significant firepower. If they fought smart, used the planet's gravity well, coordinated their defense perfectly, they might survive. He looked at his crew. Young Velthari, most of them conscripts who had never seen battle before this war. They deserved better than this. They deserved leaders who hadn't led them into an unwinnable conflict out of pride and arrogance. All ships, he transmitted, prepare for battle. The humans will be here in 36 hours. We will defend our homeworld with everything we have. For the Empire, for Velthari Prime, for our families. The fleet acknowledged his orders. Ships moved into defensive positions. Weapons were armed. Shields powered to maximum. The Velthari prepared to die defending their home, just as the humans had 2 years ago. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly on schedule. 500 warships appeared in Velthari space, their formation perfect, their approach steady. They didn't rush. They didn't hesitate. They simply advanced. Admiral Daewon watched the Velthari defense fleet on his displays. A decent force, well-positioned, ready to fight. 2 years ago, this would have been a challenge. Now it was just another obstacle. All ships, this is Admiral Daewon. You know your assignments. Execute the plan. The battle lasted 4 hours. The humans had learned much in 2 years of warfare. They knew Velthari tactics, understood their technology, could predict their responses. More importantly, they had become efficient killers. No wasted motion. No hesitation. No mercy. The Velthari fought bravely. They fought desperately. They died by the thousands. Commander Thelvis watched his fleet disintegrate around him. Human ships swarmed like locusts, coordinating their attacks with perfect precision. The orbital platforms, supposedly invincible, fell one by one to massed missile strikes and kinetic bombardment. His flagship took critical damage. Fires burned on 3 decks. Life support was failing. Half his crew was dead. Thelva stood amid the smoke and sparks, watching the tactical display flicker and die. "Commander," his communications officer said weakly, "the humans are broadcasting a message. They're asking if you want to surrender." Thelvas laughed bitterly. "They're asking? They've destroyed us and they're asking?" He keyed his communicator. "This is Commander Thelvas to the human fleet. Yes, we surrender. Tell your Admiral Daewon that he has won. The Velthari fleet is defeated." The response came from Captain Hyojin. "Commander Thelvas, power down your weapons. Shut down your shields. Remain in position. We will send boarding parties to secure your vessels. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction." "Understood." Thelvas turned to his crew. "Stand down. It's over." With the defense fleet neutralized, the human armada moved into orbit around Velthari Prime. 500 warships positioned themselves above the homeworld of an empire that had stood for 3,000 years. Billions of Velthari looked up at their sky and saw their conquerors. Admiral Daewon opened a channel to Velthari Prime, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Daewon of the United Earth Defense Force. Your military has been defeated. Your fleet is destroyed. Your orbital defenses are gone. You are defenseless. These are humanity's final terms. The Velthari High Council will surrender unconditionally within 1 hour. All Velthari military forces will disarm immediately. All subject species will be granted independence. War criminals, including all council members, will submit to trial. You will pay reparations for damages caused to Earth and human colonies. You have 1 hour to comply." In the council chamber, Venrak looked at his fellow council members. Some were crying. Others stared at nothing, their minds broken by defeat. "Does anyone have anything to say?" "Silence, then we surrender." Venrak activated the communication system. "This is Council Leader Venrak. The Velthari Empire accepts all terms. We surrender unconditionally. We request only that you spare our civilians. They are not responsible for the decisions of their leaders." Admiral Daewon's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired, old beyond his years. "Your civilians will not be harmed unless they resist. Prepare to receive occupation forces. The transition of authority begins now." On the bridge of his flagship, Daewon closed his eyes for a moment. 2 years. 2 years of fighting, of losing friends, of making impossible decisions. 2 years of war that started when the Velthari sent their arrogant ultimatum to Earth. Captain Hyojin approached him. "Sir, reports coming in from all fronts. Velthari forces across their remaining territories are surrendering. It's over. We won." "Yes," Daewon said quietly. "We won." He thought of the 40 million dead on Earth, the cities destroyed, the colonies lost, New Busan, where an entire population was murdered with bioweapons. He thought of all the young soldiers who would never go home, all the families destroyed, all the futures that ended because the Velthari thought humans were weak. "Sir?" Hyojin asked. "Are you all right?" Daewon opened his eyes. "I'm fine, Captain. Order the occupation forces to begin landing. Set up command posts in all major cities. Establish curfews. Begin identifying Velthari military personnel for processing. And Captain, make sure our soldiers understand. The war is over. Anyone who commits crimes against Velthari civilians will face immediate court-martial. We're not conquerors. We're liberators." "Yes, sir." As human ships began landing on Velthari Prime, Engineer Tae Yang sat in his workshop on Earth, watching the broadcasts. His hands were covered in grease from working on yet another prototype weapon. a weapon they would never need now. His assistant approached. "Sir, orders from Earth Command. All military production is being The Velthari High Council chamber, once a symbol of imperial power, now felt like a tomb. 2 years of war had transformed the mighty empire into a shadow of itself. The 7 council members sat in their elevated positions, but their postures spoke of defeat rather than authority. Council leader Venrock called the emergency session to order. "We have lost 14 more systems this month. The humans have destroyed our shipyards at Kelvar Station. The rebellion on Theros has succeeded, and we lack the forces to reclaim it. Our treasury is empty. Our people are afraid." He paused. "We must consider options we once thought unthinkable." Commander Thelva stepped forward. His uniform, once immaculate, showed signs of wear. His face carried new scars from a human raid on his command post. "The humans will not negotiate. They will not accept tribute. They want total victory. Our only option is to seek outside intervention." "You mean the Galactic Coalition?" Council member Selath said. "You want us to ask for help from the very organization we have ignored for centuries." "I want us to survive," Thelvas replied. "The Coalition maintains neutrality. They mediate conflicts. They protect species from extinction. If we present our case properly, they will intervene." "And how do we present our case?" asked Venrock. "We initiated hostilities. We attacked their homeworld without provocation. We used biological weapons against civilians." Thelvas pulled up a holographic display. "We edit the evidence. We show them human attacks on our colonies. We show them the destruction they have caused. We show them wounded civilians, destroyed cities, displaced populations. We tell them the humans are aggressive Deathworlders who threaten galactic peace. We don't lie. We just omit certain details." The council debated for hours. Some members argued against it, calling it cowardly. Others saw it as pragmatic. In the end, exhaustion and desperation won. The vote passed 5-2. The Velthari broadcast their distress signal on all Coalition emergency frequencies. The message was carefully crafted, showing images of destroyed colonies, displaced Velthari families, burning cities. Commander Thelvas delivered the plea himself, his voice breaking with practiced emotion. "We are the Velthari people, and we are calling for help. 2 years ago, we encountered a new species, humans, from a death world called Earth. We attempted peaceful contact, offering them membership in our confederation of allied species. They responded with violence. They have systematically destroyed our colonies, killed our civilians, and devastated our civilization. They are savage, brutal, and unrelenting. We ask the Galactic Coalition to intervene before they spread their destruction further. Please, we need protection from these Deathworlders." The transmission reached Coalition space 3 days later. The Coalition Council, comprised of representatives from 12 elder species, convened to discuss this unprecedented situation. They had heard of Deathworld species before, but none had ever developed space travel. The concept of organized intelligent beings from such a hostile environment was disturbing. Coordinator Vensul of the Trell species took charge of the investigation. The Trell were an ancient race, evolved from peaceful herbivores who had achieved spaceflight over 10,000 years ago. They viewed themselves as guardians of galactic civilization, mediators in disputes, protectors of peace. Vensul studied the Velthari evidence with careful attention. The images were horrifying. Human soldiers attacking Velthari civilians, human ships bombing population centers. The death toll was staggering. If the Velthari account was accurate, these humans were a threat to every civilized species. But Vensul was thorough. He ordered his team to investigate further. They traced communication logs, examined battle footage, interviewed refugees from Velthari space. Slowly, a different picture emerged. Meanwhile, the Coalition dispatched diplomatic vessels to both Earth and Velthari Prime. They would hear both sides before making any decisions. The delegation that arrived at Earth consisted of 3 ships and 50 diplomats from various Coalition species. They expected to find a militaristic society, perhaps even a civilization gone mad with war fever. What they found confused them. Earth was rebuilding. The cities damaged in the initial Velthari attack were being reconstructed. Civilians went about their daily lives. Children played in parks. The war effort was intense but organized, not chaotic. This didn't match their image of savage Deathworlders. Coordinator Vensul requested a meeting with Earth's leadership. He was directed to meet Ambassador Min Seo, humanity's chief diplomat. The meeting took place in New Geneva, in a conference room that still showed blast damage on one wall. Ambassador Min Seo was younger than Wenzel expected, with steady eyes and a calm demeanor. She greeted him formally and invited him to sit. The furniture was designed for humans and slightly uncomfortable for his physiology, but he managed. "Thank you for coming, Coordinator," Min Seo said. "We've been aware of the Galactic Coalition for some time, though we've never had the opportunity to make contact. Under better circumstances, this would be a joyous first contact," Wenzel replied. "Unfortunately, we are here to investigate serious accusations. The Velthari claim you attacked them without provocation and have conducted a campaign of systematic destruction against their civilization." Min Seo nodded slowly. "Yes, we're aware of their distress call. We monitored it. Would you like to hear our version of events?" "Very much so." What followed was 3 hours of evidence. Min Seo presented complete records of the initial Velthari attack, including their ultimatum and their bombardment of Earth's cities. She showed footage of the first battle, where humanity fought desperately to defend their homeworld. She provided documentation of human casualties, including the 40 million killed in the first Velthari assault. Then came the evidence of the bioweapon attack on New Busan. Medical records, recorded testimonies from the few survivors, analysis of the weapon itself. Wenzel watched footage of people dying in agony, of a colony world transformed into a graveyard. "They killed 160,000 civilians with a bioweapon," Min Seo said quietly, "including children, including infants. They specifically designed it to target human physiology. This was not an accident. This was genocide." Wenzel felt sick. The Velthari made no mention of this. Of course not. They're presenting themselves as victims, and in a sense they are. They attacked us expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found an enemy that refused to die. Now they're losing and they want you to save them. What is humanity's objective in this war? Min Seo met his eyes steadily. Survival first. Justice second. The Velthari came to our world to exterminate us. We defended ourselves. When defense wasn't enough, we attacked. When they used bioweapons on our civilians, we responded in kind. We will continue fighting until they surrender unconditionally and face justice for their crimes. You speak of justice. Yet your forces have destroyed Velthari colonies, killed civilians, devastated their economy. Yes, Min Seo agreed. We fight total war because they gave us no choice. Do you know what a death world is, Coordinator? It's a planet where everything tries to kill you. We evolved in that environment. We survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, plagues that killed half our population. We learned one lesson above all others. When something threatens your survival, you fight with everything you have. You don't fight fair. You don't fight clean. You fight to win. She stood and walked to the damaged wall. This building was hit in the first Velthari attack. 43 people died here, including my predecessor. The Velthari did this. They started this war. Now they're learning what happens when you attack a species from Earth. Wenzel was silent for a long moment. The Coalition's purpose is to prevent wars, not to determine who deserves to win them. We seek peace. Then tell the Velthari to surrender, Min Seo said. We've offered terms multiple times. Unconditional surrender, disarmament, war crimes trials. They've refused every offer. They're still fighting because they believe you'll save them. And if we do, if the Coalition intervenes to protect the Velthari, Min Seo's expression didn't change. Then you'll learn the same lesson they did. We don't make threats, Coordinator. We make promises. They promise to destroy our world. We promise to make them regret it. We keep our promises. Wenzel left Earth deeply troubled. He traveled to Velthari Prime next and met with the High Council. The meeting was very different. The Velthari were desperate, pleading, insistent that the Coalition protect them from human aggression. Commander Thelvas tried to justify their actions. We only offered them a place in our empire. They responded with violence. Wenzel pulled up the recordings Min Seo had provided. This is your original ultimatum to Earth. Surrender or be destroyed. Does this sound like a friendly offer? The council chamber fell silent. And this, Wenzel continued, is footage of your bioweapon attack on New Busan. He played the horrifying scenes. You systematically murdered 160,000 civilians. You designed a weapon specifically to kill humans. You call them savages, but what does this make you? Council leader Venrock had no answer. Bensel stood. The Galactic Coalition cannot protect a species that initiates unprovoked war and commits genocide. You brought this upon yourselves. My recommendation to the Council will be simple. End this war. Surrender to human terms. F. 6 months after the battle for Earth, humanity launched its first offensive. The war had changed everything. Earth shipyards worked without stopping. Every nation contributed resources. Every factory produced weapons. Every person with skills joined the war effort. The age of human division was over. Now there was only survival. Colonel J. He stood in the dropship with her battalion of Marines, 200 soldiers, the best Earth had to offer. They wore powered armor built from reverse-engineered Velthari technology. They carried weapons that combined human brutality with alien precision. And they were about to do something insane. 60 seconds, the pilot announced. J. checked her rifle one last time. The mission was simple in concept, impossible in execution. The planet below, designated Target Sigma, was a minor Velthari colony. 300,000 civilians, minimal military presence, important industrial facilities. The Velthari expected any attack to come from orbit, following the standard pattern of space warfare. Humanity was done with standard patterns. 30 seconds. Brace for atmospheric entry. The dropship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere. No stealth approach, no careful planning, just speed and surprise. The ship screamed through the sky, its heat shields glowing red-hot. At 5,000 meters, the bay doors opened. Go, go, go! Jahi jumped. The ground rushed up at terrifying speed. Her powered armor absorbed the impact as she landed in the middle of a Velthari industrial complex. Her soldiers landed around her, weapons ready. The Velthari guards stood frozen in shock. Humans, on their planet. Dropped from orbit without any warning. It was impossible. It was suicide. It was brilliant. The battle lasted 12 minutes. The Velthari guards were trained for conventional warfare, for defending against other Velthari tactics. They had no response to humans who moved with impossible speed in the lower gravity, who absorbed damage that should have killed them, who fought with savage efficiency. Jahi led her team through the facility, placing demolition charges on every critical system. The Velthari tried to mount a defense, but they were too slow, too cautious. Her soldiers had evolved on Earth, where everything tried to kill them. This planet was gentle by comparison, its gravity weak, its atmosphere mild. They moved like predators. Charges set, her lieutenant reported. 20 minutes to detonation. Pull back to extraction point, Jahi ordered. The dropships returned, scooping up the human soldiers while Velthari fighters scrambled to intercept. By the time the Velthari military responded with organized force, the humans were gone. Behind them, the industrial complex exploded, sending flames hundreds of meters into the sky. This attack was repeated on 12 Velthari colonies in the same week. Fast, violent, devastating. The message was clear. Nowhere was safe. If the Velthari could attack Earth cities, humanity could attack Velthari worlds. The war spread. The Velthari Empire had ruled 40 systems for 3,000 years through superior technology and ruthless military power. Now that power meant nothing. The humans didn't fight fleet battles they couldn't win. They struck at supply lines, destroyed infrastructure, assassinated military leaders, and disappeared before reinforcements arrived. Commander Thelvis studied the reports with growing dread. 23 colonies attacked in 3 months. The Velthari fleet was spread thin, trying to defend everything, unable to predict where humans would strike next. And the subject species, the dozens of civilizations the Velthari had conquered, were watching. On the planet Kelmar Prime, the conquered Kelmar people rose in rebellion. They had suffered under Velthari rule for 500 years. Now they saw an opportunity. If humans could fight the Velthari and survive, maybe others could too. The Velthari garrison on Kelmar Prime was destroyed in a popular uprising. The rebellion spread to 6 other subject worlds. The Empire, stretched thin by the human threat, could not suppress all of them. The High Council met in emergency session. Council leader Venrak looked older than he had 6 months ago. The situation is deteriorating. Our fleets are divided, trying to defend too many locations. Our subject species are rebelling. Our economy is suffering. These humans are destroying us with a fraction of our military strength. We should negotiate, suggested Council member Selath. Negotiate? Thelvis, now restored to military planning command, spoke up. You don't understand these Deathworlders. They don't want territory. They don't want tribute. They want revenge. We attacked their home. We killed their civilians. They will not stop until we are destroyed. Then we must destroy them first, Venrak said. What do you propose? Delvas pulled up a classified file. Our biological research division has developed a weapon, a disease specifically designed to target human physiology. We release it on one of their colony worlds. It will spread rapidly, kill efficiently. We make them understand the cost of continuing this war. The council debated for hours. Finally, Venrak called for a vote. 6 voted in favor. 1 abstained. The biological weapon was approved. The target was New Busan, a human colony world with 200,000 inhabitants. The planet was young, barely 30 years old, home to families who had left Earth seeking a fresh start. The Velthari strike team deployed the weapon in the main water supply. The disease worked exactly as designed. It spread through the population in days. The symptoms were horrific. Fever, hemorrhaging, organ failure. The death rate was 98%. Within 2 weeks, New Busan was a graveyard. Lieutenant Commander Subin received the news while aboard her destroyer. New Busan had been her home. Her parents lived there. Her 2 younger sisters. Her nephew, just 3 years old. All of them gone. She stood in her quarters staring at the last message from her mother. A cheerful video, recorded 3 weeks ago, talking about planting a garden, about how her nephew was learning to read. Normal, happy, peaceful. Ma'am, her executive officer said softly from the doorway. Admiral Daewon is calling a staff meeting. Subin wiped her eyes. I'll be there. The meeting was short. Admiral Daewon stood before his commanders, his face carved from stone. The Velthari have used biological weapons against our civilians. They have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. I am authorizing unrestricted warfare. No more holding back. No more proportional responses. They wanted to see what happens when you back Deathworlders into a corner. Let's show them. Subin volunteered for the retaliatory mission. She led a squadron of 12 ships directly to Velthari Prime, the Empire's homeworld. They didn't attack the planet itself. Instead, they destroyed every orbital station, every satellite, every space-based facility. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. Before she left, Subin broadcast a message to the Velthari High Council. You killed my family. You used bioweapons against civilians. You thought that would break us. You were wrong. You taught us there are no rules, no limits, no mercy. We're fast learners. The Velthari watched their orbital infrastructure burn and understood too late the truth. They hadn't been fighting a war. They had been playing at war, following rules and protocols they assumed everyone else would follow too. Humans didn't follow rules. They adapted, they improvised, they did whatever worked, and when someone hurt them, they hurt back harder. The war escalated beyond anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Human fleets attacked Velthari military bases with nuclear weapons. Velthari cruisers hunted human colony ships. Both sides targeted infrastructure, supplies, communications. The conflict became total. The Galactic Coalition, the neutral organization of elder species that maintained peace, watched with growing alarm. They sent diplomatic missions to both sides. The Velthari responded with carefully edited footage showing human atrocities. The humans responded with raw evidence of Velthari crimes. Both sides refused to negotiate. On Earth, engineer Tae Yang unveiled his newest creation. We call it the Hammer. It's a kinetic weapon dropped from high orbit. No explosive, just mass and velocity. When it hits, it releases energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, but without the radiation. Admiral Daewon studied the schematics. How many can you build? As many as you need. Build them all, the war ground on. Month after month, both sides bled. The Velthari Empire, once spanning 40 systems, controlled 26. Their economy was collapsing. Their subject species were in full rebellion. Their fleet was reduced to less than half its original strength. But humanity was suffering too. 6 colony worlds destroyed, Earth itself scarred by bombardment, millions dead, resources depleted. Every victory cost blood. Commander Thelvis stood before the High Council once again. We are losing. Not quickly, but inevitably. The humans will not stop. They cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be intimidated. Every defeat makes them more determined. What do you recommend? Venrak asked wearily. Thelvis took a deep breath. We send a distress call to the Galactic Coalition. We claim we are the victims. We ask for protection. You would have us beg for help. I would have us survive. The Velthari Empire gathered its strength. Across 40 star systems, warships assembled. Every fleet, every battle group, every reserve squadron received orders to converge on a staging area 3 light-years from Earth, the largest military force in a century. 312 warships carrying enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. Commander Thelva stood aboard the flagship again, but this time he was not in command. That honor went to Fleet Admiral Korseth, a veteran of 50 campaigns who had never known defeat. Thelva served as tactical advisor, his humiliation at Earth earning him a demotion but also making him the only Velthari who had faced the humans and survived. Tell me about them, Korseth demanded. Thelva's pulled up the combat recordings. They are unpredictable. They use outdated weapons in unexpected ways. Their tactics have no pattern. They sacrifice their own ships without hesitation. Korseth watched the footage with growing interest. They fight like the Krell swarmers. No, Thelva said quietly. The Krell fight on instinct. The humans fight with intelligence and instinct combined. They think, they plan, and then they execute with complete disregard for their own safety. It's terrifying. Terrifying, Korseth repeated, his voice amused. Commander, I have crushed 50 species. These humans will be number 51. He turned to the fleet communications officer. All ships, prepare to jump to Earth. We will establish orbital superiority, destroy their military infrastructure, and then glass the planet from pole to pole. Let us finish what Thelvas could not. But the humans were not waiting. Captain Hyojin guided her stealth frigate through Velthari space, her ship running silent and dark. The Shadow of Cheonji was Earth's newest design, built using captured Velthari technology and human engineering. It could slip past sensors like a ghost. Her mission was simple: find the Velthari fleet, plant tracking devices, map their supply lines, and survive. Contact, her sensor officer whispered. Multiple ships, lots of them. Hyojin studied the display. Ships everywhere gathered in a massive formation. She did quick math. Over 300 vessels. Her blood went cold. Get me Admiral Daewon, she said. Priority Alpha. The encrypted communication took 3 minutes to establish. When Daewon's face appeared on her screen, she didn't waste time. Sir, I'm looking at their entire fleet. 300+ ships all preparing to jump to Earth. We have maybe 48 hours. Daewon nodded slowly. Good work, Captain. Plant your beacons and get out of there. Sir, we could sabotage their fuel depots, maybe delay them. Negative. We need you back here. We're going to need every ship for what comes next. While Hyojin completed her mission, engineer Tae Yang worked miracles in the shipyards orbiting Earth. His team had torn apart the captured Velthari ships, studying every system, every component, every line of code. Now they were building something new. Show me, Admiral Daewon said, standing in the massive construction bay. Tae Yang grinned, his eyes red from lack of sleep. We took their shield technology and modified it. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, so we made them stop kinetic projectiles too. Not perfectly, but better than nothing. We copied their faster-than-light drives, but made them more efficient. And we figured out their weapons. Can we build them? We already are. 20 new hybrid ships will be ready in 36 hours. They're not as pretty as pure Velthari ships, and they're not as tough as pure Earth ships, but they're fast and they hit hard. Daewon looked at the partially completed vessels. 36 hours. They'll be here in 48. We'll take them. When the Velthari fleet arrived at Earth, they expected to find a broken, terrified civilization. Instead, they jumped into hell. The humans had turned the space around Earth into a death trap. Old satellites had been converted into nuclear mines. Automated drones swarmed in the thousands. The Earth Defense Fleet, now reinforced with the hybrid warships, waited in formation. Fleet Admiral Korseth stared at his tactical display in surprise. They knew we were coming. Impossible, Thelvas said. We maintained communication silence. We jumped from a secure staging area. Yet here they are, prepared and waiting. Korseth narrowed his eyes. No matter. All ships, advance. Destroy everything. The battle lasted 3 days. The humans fought with desperate courage. They used the planet's gravity well to slingshot their ships around, building velocity for ramming attacks. They hid ships behind the moon, ambushing Velthari squadrons. They deployed clouds of metal debris that shredded Velthari hulls. They fired missiles that split into dozens of smaller warheads. They used nuclear weapons not as bombs but as propulsion, detonating them behind their ships to boost velocity. On the second day, Admiral Day Wan ordered the most controversial tactic. All ships' ramming speed protocol is authorized. His bridge crew fell silent. Then his executive officer spoke. "Sir, that's a suicide order." "That's a victory order," Day Wan replied. "We're losing. They have more ships, better shields, and longer weapons range. But we have one advantage. We're willing to die to protect our home. They're not willing to die to conquer it. Use that." 12 human ships executed suicide runs that day. Each one took a Velthari warship with them. The psychological impact was devastating. Velthari captains began to hesitate, to pull back, to avoid close combat. They had never faced an enemy this committed. On the third day, the Velthari achieved orbital superiority over North America. Korseth gave the order to commence bombardment. Kinetic strikes rained down on military installations, industrial centers, and population hubs. Seattle burned. Mexico City went dark. Toronto ceased to exist, but the bombardment cost them. Human ships continued to attack, focusing on the bombardment vessels. A Velthari dreadnought exploded when a damaged human destroyer crashed through its shield at full velocity. 2 more capital ships took critical damage from massed missile strikes. By the end of the third day, Korseth counted his losses. 247 ships had jumped into Earth space. 183 remained operational. 64 destroyed. 3 days of combat and he had lost a fifth of his fleet. The humans had lost more. 70% of their ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. But they were still fighting. "Sir, we can glass the planet," Thelvas said. "Pull back to a safe distance and bombard from extreme range." "No," Korseth said. "We pull back to regroup. This is taking too long. The High Council needs to understand what we're facing." As the Velthari fleet withdrew to a higher orbit, Admiral Day Wan surveyed the damage to Earth. 12 cities destroyed, 40 million dead. His fleet reduced to 30 operational ships, but they had held. They had survived. He opened a communication channel to all remaining human forces. "This is Admiral Day Wan. The enemy is retreating. They came here with 300 ships to wipe us out. We showed them what happens when you attack Earth. We made them pay for every meter of space. We made them afraid." He paused, looking at the image of burning cities on his screen. "But this is not over. They will regroup. They will come back. So we're not going to wait. We're going to take this fight to them. They wanted war. Now they're going to learn what war looks like when you're fighting humans." On the Velthari flagship, Fleet Admiral Korseth composed his report to the High Council. His hands shook slightly as he wrote. In 50 campaigns, he had never felt this emotion. These Deathworlders, these primitives, they had done something no species had managed in 3,000 years. They had made the Velthari bleed. The stars belonged to the Velthari, or so they believed. For 3,000 years, their empire had stretched across 40 star systems, conquering every species they encountered. Their ships were the fastest, their weapons the most powerful, and their soldiers the most disciplined. No one had ever defeated them in open battle. No one had even come close. Commander Thelvas stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the holographic display of a blue-green planet. Earth, the primitives called it. His scouts had discovered it 3 months ago, and the reports made him laugh. A Class 9 death world, they said. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent and unpredictable. The native animals were aggressive predators. Diseases covered every surface. The oceans were full of monsters. The land masses shifted and cracked, spewing fire from beneath the surface. And somehow intelligent life had evolved there. The humans. Thelva studied their primitive cities, their crude spacecraft, their simple weapons. They had barely left their own star system. They still fought wars among themselves. They were nothing. Less than nothing. The High Council had given him 30 warships for this mission. 30 ships to conquer an entire world. It was almost insulting. But Thelvas understood the message. This was not a conquest. This was pest control. He recorded, his message to the humans, making sure his tone conveyed the proper amount of contempt. Attention, primitive inhabitants of the planet you call Earth. I am Commander Thelvas of the Velthari Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and accept our rule, or we will destroy your cities from orbit. You have 1 solar rotation to comply. The response came 6 hours later. Thelvas expected tears, begging, perhaps offers of tribute. Instead, a human face appeared on his screen. The human was older, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore some kind of military uniform. The translation, software identified him as Admiral Day Wan of something called the United Earth Defense Force. Commander Thelvas, the human said, his voice calm and steady. We received your message. Here's our response. No. He paused, and something that might have been a smile crossed his face. We've survived ice ages that froze the entire planet. We've survived diseases that killed half our population. We've survived asteroids that blocked out our sun for years. We've fought thousands of wars against each other and somehow managed not to destroy ourselves. You think you're scary? You're just another Tuesday. Thelvas felt his blood heating. How dare this primitive mock him, mock the Velthari Empire? He cut the transmission and gave the order to attack. The battle lasted 4 hours. It should have lasted 4 minutes. Thelvas watched in growing disbelief, as his ships encountered weapons he had never imagined. The humans launched massive chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. No shields, no energy weapons, just dumb mass moving at relativistic velocities. His shields were designed to deflect energy beams and plasma bolts. They did nothing against solid projectiles traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. One of his cruisers exploded when a human missile detonated inside its shield perimeter. The explosion was wrong, all wrong. His sensors told him it was a nuclear weapon, an ancient technology most species abandoned millennia ago. But the humans had made it work, made it devastating. Then came the electromagnetic pulse weapons. Crude, simple, and horrifyingly effective. They didn't destroy his ships. They just shut them down, leaving them drifting helplessly in space while the humans fired more missiles, more kinetic weapons, more nuclear warheads. The human ships were slow, clumsy, and poorly shielded. They should have been easy targets. But they didn't fight like any species Thelvas had ever encountered. They didn't maintain formation. They didn't follow any tactical doctrine he recognized. They swarmed like insects, attacking from every angle, sacrificing their own ships to get close enough to damage his. One human ship, its hull breached and leaking atmosphere, rammed directly into a Velthari destroyer. Both vessels exploded. Thelvas stared at the debris field in horror. They were willing to die. Not just willing, eager. They fought like cornered animals, like the predators from their death world. When the battle ended, 23 of his 30 ships were destroyed. The survivors limped away from Earth, their shields failing, their weapons depleted, their crews terrified. Thelvas stood before the High Council 3 days later, his career in ruins, his pride shattered. The 7 council members sat in their elevated positions, their faces showing various degrees of anger and disbelief. Explain, said Council Leader Venrock. Just one word, but it carried the weight of 3,000 years of unbroken victory. Thelvas chose his words carefully. They are not like other species. They come from a death world. They have no concept of survival as we understand it. They don't surrender. They don't negotiate. They attack with no regard for their own lives. Their weapons are primitive but effective. They use mass and energy in ways we have never encountered. They are feral, vicious, and completely irrational. Irrational, repeated Council Member Seleth. They defeated you with irrationality? They defeated me with savagery, Thelvas said. They fight like animals. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Venrock spoke. The Velthari Empire does not lose. We have never lost. These humans have insulted us, humiliated us, destroyed our ships, and killed our soldiers. This cannot stand. What are your orders? Thelvas asked, though he already knew the answer. Total war, Venrak said. We will mobilize the full fleet, 300 warships. We will turn their death world into a true dead world. We will burn their cities to ash and glass their continents until nothing remains. And we will broadcast it to every species in the galaxy as a lesson. This is what happens when you defy the Velthari Empire. Thelvas bowed. As he left the chamber, he felt a strange sensation in his chest. It took him a moment to identify it. Fear. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Thelvas was afraid. Back on Earth, Admiral Dewan watched the retreating Velthari ships and allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Then he turned to his staff officers and began giving orders. The battle had revealed critical information about Velthari technology. Their ships were fast, but fragile. Their shields were powerful, but specialized. Their tactics were rigid and predictable. They'll be back, he said, and they'll bring more ships, many more. We hurt their pride, and prideful species always escalate. Get every shipyard working triple shifts. Strip the captured technology and reverse engineer everything you can. Contact every military base, every research facility, every weapons manufacturer. We need to be ready because next time, they won't underestimate us. Sir, one of his junior officers said hesitantly, can we win against 300 ships? Dewan looked at the young woman and saw the fear in her eyes. He remembered being that young once, that uncertain. He smiled, not kindly, but with grim determination. We're humans, he said. We're from Earth. We evolved on a planet that's been trying to kill us since we climbed down from the trees. We've fought and survived and adapted for hundreds of thousands of years. Can we win? He paused. We don't know how to do anything else.